My boyfriend lost his memory. He forgot that he was into men and, more painfully, he forgot about me. Chasing him was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and I wasn't about to do it again. Conveniently, his mother also wanted him to return to the life he once knew. I compromised and stepped back into the shadows of his life, becoming a stranger. But when I tried to pass by unnoticed, he pulled me into his arms. "Forgive me," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. "It's just, my body seems to remember holding you." Welcome to the Hee Hee Story channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the Hee Hee Story channel. Story begins. Later that night, as I was lying in bed, I remembered one of Leon Fisher's flaws and scribbled it into my phone's memo app. Chronic procrastinator. Always waits until midnight to shower. I had already compiled a list of over 20 of his flaws, racking my brain each night to think of more. My hope was that by the time I reached 50, I'd be able to let him go completely. Leon Fisher, my boyfriend, the straight man I had spent so long pursuing, had lost his memory. He forgot he was gay and he forgot me. Worse yet, the doctors said there was little chance of him regaining those memories. The devastation felt like watching a painstakingly built domino structure collapse halfway through, all my efforts gone to waste. We were both strong-willed individuals, and it had taken us a long time to find harmony. We had compromised, adjusted, and reshaped ourselves to fit into each other's lives. Just as things were starting to feel perfect, the progress bar of our relationship had suddenly reset to 0. The day Leon had his accident, I was out of town on a business trip. When I rushed back, I found him smiling and joking with a pretty nurse. I already knew the diagnosis by then, but a part of me still hoped it was just an elaborate prank. However, when I saw that familiar yet foreign smile, I realized it was real. He noticed me standing by the door and gave me a polite nod, as if acknowledging an acquaintance, not the person who had once been his world. That distant gesture sent my mind spinning, and I struggled to catch my breath. His mother noticed and quickly guided me to the side. For the first 2 years of our relationship, she had been deeply unhappy about her son turning gay, but eventually, she had resigned herself to it. Now, this accident must have seemed like a blessing to her. As if reading my thoughts, she gently took my hand and pleaded, "Nico, could you please let him go? Let him return to a normal life." Deleting our chat history, removing photos, informing mutual friends, it was surprisingly easy to erase myself from someone's life. Leon Fisher had left many of his belongings in our shared apartment. I packed them all up and sent them back to his family, confirming with his mother that he wouldn't be home when I dropped them off. Yet, as I was leaving, I ran into him. The elevator doors opened, and there he was, casually twirling his car keys in hand. His eyes landed on me, and he opened his mouth in mild surprise. "Oh, it's you." He stepped aside, offering me space. "Were you here to visit me?" "I'm doing fine now. Thanks for coming by." I forced a neutral expression, stepping out of the elevator. "Yes, I heard from your mom. Glad to see you're better." Leon seemed a bit awkward, hesitant to speak. "Sorry, I've lost a few years of memories. I don't quite remember who you are. But since you came to the hospital in my house, we must have been close, right? Were we co-workers?" Though I had braced myself for this moment, hearing those words still sent a dull ache through my heart, bitterness rising like bile in my throat. I steadied my voice, trying not to tremble. "Yes, we were on the same project team. I'm Nico Widmer. I can help you get back up to speed when you return to work." Relief spread across his face as he smiled gratefully. "Thanks. Would you like to come upstairs for a bit?" I could tell it was just a polite offer. Once, not long after we'd started dating, Leon had brought me home. I had hesitated at the building's entrance, nervously clinging to a post. Without a word, he had hoisted me over his shoulder and carried me into the elevator, trapping me in the corner with a playful grin. "Don't worry, my mom doesn't hit. If she does, I'll carry you and run." Looking at him now, standing there with that same distant smile, my heart sank. "No need. I'll see you at work." Back in my car, I opened the memo app on my phone, fingers trembling as I added another flaw to the list. Terrible taste in cologne. His new choice smells awful. The list was nearing 30 entries. I had passed the halfway point of my plan. But no matter how many flaws I wrote down, it didn't diminish his hold on my heart. Sighing, I leaned back in my seat, only to be startled by a knock on the window. It was Leon again. I rolled down the window, and he bent down, peering at me with concern. I might be overstepping, but... Are you sure you're okay? You didn't look too well earlier. I rubbed my face, attempting a light laugh. I'm fine, just a little tired. Maybe you should call a driver. I only got into that accident because I wasn't paying attention while driving. No one knew what Leon had been up to that day when the accident happened. In the days leading up to it, I had sensed he was hiding something from me, but I'd never been one to dig too deep. Now, with his memory wiped clean, I would never know. Thanks for the suggestion, I replied, finally managing to repay him for all the apologies he had given me over the past few days. But don't worry about me. I'm very careful. I'll be fine. I didn't tell him that we weren't just co-workers. We had been college roommates for a year. I had fallen ill in my senior year and had to take a leave of absence, ending up in his dorm when I returned. I had assumed we wouldn't interact much, as most seniors were either interning or preparing for exams. But Leon had barged into my life with a swagger that I couldn't ignore. During my recovery, he looked after me, getting meals, fetching materials from professors, accompanying me to follow-up appointments. He even stood by the bathroom door while I showered, worried I'd pass out. It's what brothers do, he'd say. Before Leon, I would have never pursued a straight guy. But after facing death, my restraint had vanished. I wanted to live in the moment, and if I liked someone, damn it, I was going to chase him. I spent over 6 months trying to win him over, but graduation came before I could. On our last day, I laid 2 things in front of him. An offer from the same company he was joining and a plane ticket back home. Pick one for me, I said. He glanced at both and said, "Stop chasing." Crushed, I grabbed my suitcase and turned to leave, but he yanked me back, pulling me into his lap. Before I could even process what was happening, he cupped my neck and kissed me deeply. "Why not just kiss me?" he murmured against my lips. It took him 2 more weeks to return to work, during which time our boss had arranged for a colleague to help him get back on track. In a room full of friendly greetings and words of encouragement, Leon's confused eyes found mine. I sat in the far corner sipping water, trying to avoid his gaze. He cornered me later in the break room. "Nico Widmer, why wasn't it you?" I stirred creamer into my coffee, focusing on the swirling powder instead of his piercing eyes. "I've been busy lately. The team lead thought someone else could help you better." "But," I asked around. People said we weren't close, that we barely talked. I paused, then said honestly, "They're right. I'm just someone who cares too much." When the cleaning lady sprained her ankle, I visited her too. Leon fell silent, glancing down at my coffee, now more creamer than coffee. "Don't drink that. Non-dairy creamer isn't good for you." For a second, the familiarity of his words, his tone, made me think he hadn't lost his memory after all. Leon had always kept a close eye on my diet, forbidding junk food. Whenever I tried to sneak in some late-night fast food, he'd catch me and punish me, under the guise of helping me burn off the calories. I smiled and deliberately took a long gulp of the coffee. "I like this cheap stuff." His Adam's apple bobbed as if he had more to say but couldn't bring himself to speak. "If there's nothing else, get back to work," I said, trying to avoid being alone with him for too long, unsure what words might slip out next. As I moved to pass him, his arm suddenly reached out and gently pulled me into a soft embrace. Time seemed to slow down as I felt the warmth of his chest, the familiar rise and fall of his breath against my neck. I froze in place, and in an instant, Leon pulled back, staring down at his own hand like it had acted on its own. His face turned a deep shade of red. I'm sorry," he stammered, clearly flustered. "I don't know what happened. I just, suddenly." How strange, I thought. His mind may not remember, but could his body still recall? Leon Fisher and I had been secret lovers at work, and to everyone else, we seemed distant, barely speaking. No one knew about our stolen moments, the way our fingers intertwined in crowded elevators, the bold embraces in the empty break room, or the way we shared a kiss in the copy room, masked by the hum of the machines. Perhaps we had done it so many times that our bodies had developed a muscle memory of their own. My phone screen lit up with his barrage of apologies, filling the once blank chat window. I calmly replied, "Don't worry about it. A hug between colleagues isn't a big deal, especially since we're both men." He seemed reassured and finally stopped. But a few moments later, he messaged again. "Is the picture in your social media background you and your girlfriend?" My heart skipped a beat. I had forgotten to change my profile background after restricting its visibility. Luckily, it wasn't a real photo of us, just a snapshot from a walk we took one evening. Under the streetlights, our shadows intertwined as we moved apart and together, repeating the cycle with every step. I thought it was interesting, so I took a photo when our shadows were closest. What's so special about shadows being close? Leon had asked at the time, though he stood still patiently, waiting for me to finish. Then he had tilted my face toward him and kissed me. If you're bold, post a picture of our faces, he teased. I quickly changed the background and responded, X. After a brief pause, I added, first day back. Please focus on work. Not that our boss wanted any of us to focus that day. Leon Fisher had secured 2 major, high-profit deals for the company before his accident, making him somewhat of a hero. That's why, despite the incident, the company didn't abandon him. Today, they'd even planned a welcome-back dinner in his honor, and by the afternoon, everyone was buzzing with excitement, ready to ditch work for the hotel feast. As the guest of honor, Leon Fisher was in the spotlight, seamlessly navigating through conversations, charming everyone with his usual ease. His people skills had always been excellent. After he and I got together, he had narrowed his social circle for my sake. Now, it seemed like he had returned to his comfort zone. Watching him from the far end of the table, I began to wonder. Maybe Leon Fisher would be happier without me in his life. A hollow feeling settled in my chest as I downed the drink in front of me. The sharp burn scorched its way to my stomach before I realized I had driven here tonight. The little marker representing the ride-hailing driver on the app drifted further away, while most of my colleagues had already left. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Leon Fisher finish his conversation with the boss. He paused for a moment, then headed in my direction. Nervous, I quickly hit the dial button on my phone, pretending to be too busy to be interrupted. Leon stopped a few meters away, silently watching me. What did you say? I raised my voice deliberately, hoping the person on the other end would understand the urgency. The driver's voice, wrapped in the whoosh of wind, came through, sounding rushed. I got an automatic assignment on another platform. I won't be able to make it. Cancel the ride. I had already been waiting for him for half an hour. He could have told me sooner but had strung me along. Well, cancel it yourself then. I snapped, my irritation flaring. But before I could finish venting my frustration, the call ended abruptly. Just as I contemplated how to deal with this unreliable driver, my phone was suddenly snatched out of my hand. I haven't had anything to drink. Let me drive. Leon's voice was calm as he extended his hand. Give me the keys. His tone and expression were so natural that I hesitated, handing him the keys before I even had a chance to refuse. We had already passed 2 intersections when it hit me how inappropriate this situation was. At the next red light, the car came to a smooth stop, and the silence of the 60-second countdown felt endless. Leon's gaze wandered to the small figurines on the dashboard. 2 little block figures I had custom-made for us last Valentine's Day. They were abstract but clearly depicted 2 men. Fearing his mind would start piecing things together, I quickly tried to divert his attention. It's so cold tonight, huh? He turned to me, his brow furrowed in confusion. Cold? Are you cold now? He reached for the controls to adjust the temperature, his movements halting halfway. Strange. Your car feels so familiar to me. Damn it. I kept my mouth shut, the rest of the ride passing in awkward silence. When we finally pulled into the garage, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My plan was to order a ride for him and get him out of here as quickly as possible. But as I looked over, I saw him fiddling with his dead phone. Nico, my phone's dead. Mind if I come up to your place to charge it for a bit? No need for that, I said quickly, already dialing for a ride. I'll call one for you. It's the least I can do since you gave me a ride back. It's a long way to my place. I don't feel safe with my phone dead the whole time. He trailed off, making it harder for me to come up with a reason to refuse. Inwardly, I cursed myself for not keeping a charger in the car. Leon hadn't been to this apartment since the accident. It had been a long time, and I wasn't prepared to have him back. The elevator doors opened, and the neighbor across the hall stepped out with a bag of trash. His eyes flickered from me to Leon, a hint of surprise flashing across his face. Hey, long time no see. Yeah, been working late recently, early in, late out. I cut him off, pushing Leon back into the elevator. The trash chute closes soon. Better hurry. The neighbor blinked, hesitated, then nodded and walked away. Crisis averted, for now. This was the last time I'd let Leon come back here. I'd get him downstairs, send him home, and that would be the end of it. Who knew what might happen if he bumped into someone else we both knew? I was the problem. I was the one who kept softening, even though I'd promised his mother I'd let him return to his straight life, to the normal path he was meant to follow. A path free of me and the complications I brought. So, why did you two break up? Leon's question jolted me out of my thoughts. I froze, holding a pair of slippers for him. He leaned casually against the wall, taking off his shoes, as if the question had just popped into his head. But his expression was serious. If he looked closely, he'd see the clues everywhere. The 2 pairs of shoes I had bought him still on the rack, the ties I had picked out draped on the dresser, the couple's jackets we had hung in the hallway. I hadn't packed these things up because I didn't want them to spark unnecessary questions. He lost interest, I replied curtly. Leon seemed surprised by my answer, and it looked like he was rummaging through his mind for something comforting to say. Well, she has no taste then. Nico, if your ex lost interest, just think of them as dead. The next one will be better. I glanced at him, wondering how he would react if he found out the ex he spoke so harshly about was, in fact, himself. But those words were better left unsaid. Don't talk about him like that, I said softly. Don't talk about yourself like that. I had no intention of letting Leon stay long. I handed him the fast charger. Nico, you're a really good person. You deserve someone better. His expression was so sincere that, for a moment, I saw the Leon Fisher I had met years ago, the one who had broken down my defenses and slowly seeped into every corner of my life. This wasn't good. It felt like we were heading down the same path all over again. He was still rambling. I went to my high school reunion recently. A lot of the girls have gotten prettier. And some are still single. If you're interested, I can help set you up. I decided it was time to give this clueless straight man a shock. He needed to snap out of it and stay away from me. You can't match me up with anyone. Leon laughed, waving off the idea. Why not? You're an amazing guy. If you want to find someone, you absolutely. Because I like men. His hand froze mid-air, eyes widening in disbelief. My ex was a man. We did everything couples do, right here in this apartment. What? You're? Leon stammered, his face turning an alarming shade of red. His eyes darting around as if searching for a way out of the conversation. Yes, I'm gay. I took a step toward him, unsurprised when he instinctively recoiled. So, are you still planning on setting me up? For a moment, he tried to laugh it off, but as the seriousness of my words sank in, he couldn't meet my gaze anymore. The air between us grew thick with awkwardness. Leon pulled the charger from the wall, offering a strained smile. This fast charger really is quick. I've got 50% now, more than enough to get me home. I nodded. Let me walk you down. No, you should get some rest, he insisted, waving me off. Moments earlier, I'd heard the neighbor's door shut. He was safely home now, so Leon wouldn't run into him again. I didn't push the matter, standing with my arms crossed as I watched Leon leave in a hurry. That night, I dreamt about the first time I came out to Leon. We had already been close by then. Leon considered me his best friend, his most loyal brother. I had anticipated the worst possible outcomes, that he might call me disgusting, cut ties, or worse, that the whole school would find out. But none of that happened. After the initial shock, Leon had retreated to the balcony to collect himself. When he came back, he looked me in the eye and said, I respect your feelings, but I can't return them. If you want me to stay by your side, we'll still be best friends. I'll wait for the day you fall for someone else. It was in that moment that I knew I would never give up on him. When I woke, the first light of dawn was creeping through the window, but all I felt was a hollow sense of loss. The list of Leon's flaws I had been compiling in my phone had stopped growing, and I knew why. It wasn't working. No matter how many faults I wrote down, I couldn't erase how much I still loved him. What had started as a passionate relationship had regressed into a one-sided crush. The man who had once shared every intimate moment with me had become just another colleague, someone I could no longer look at for too long. How long would it take to move on from him? I didn't know. All I knew was that the constant push and pull of unspoken emotions was starting to wear me down. The next day, my exhaustion was written all over my face, and leaving the HR office felt like I had aged a year in an hour. Negotiating my resignation had drained me. Just one more month. One more month and I could put all of this behind me. But just as I thought I could hold on, my resolve faltered the moment a cup of coffee appeared on my desk. I already knew the answer, but I still asked my neighbor. Who brought this? Leon Fisher. He got one for everyone in the office. I checked the office chat and, sure enough, it was flooded with thank you messages and emojis. You weren't at your desk, so I took the liberty of ordering one for you. Let me know if you don't like it, and I'll get you something else. I took a sip. The smooth, warm liquid eased some of the tension in my body. It's great, thank you. Hours later, another message from Leon popped up. Want to have lunch together? I thought a lot about last night and there are some things I want to say in person. I straightened in my chair, glancing over at him. Leon sat at his desk, his shoulders tense, staring at his screen as if waiting for my response. Since I'd already made the decision to leave soon, I figured a few more days wouldn't hurt. I agreed to lunch. As I picked at the halved cherry tomatoes on my plate, the smell of grilled meat from the restaurant next door wafted over, making the bland green salad in front of me even less appetizing. Leon, ever attentive to my expression, pulled out the menu. Should we order something else? No need. Is this what you spent all night thinking about? Recommending me this restaurant? Of course not. Leon denied quickly, fidgeting with his hands. I wanted to apologize for my reaction last night. I didn't mean anything bad, It's fine. Honestly, your opinion doesn't really matter to me. Leon blinked, clearly caught off guard by my bluntness. His head dropped slightly. The words were cold, but I had my reasons. I was planning on leaving his life for good, so why leave him with a good impression? This place sucks too, I added, paying the bill before walking out of the restaurant. Leon, hearing my comment, only looked more guilty. Sorry about that. We'll try a better place next time. I frowned. Why was he talking about next time? I had thought I could handle my feelings, that I could stay by his side, watching him move on to another life, another happiness. But I was wrong. I said those harsh things that would push him away, hoping he'd keep his distance. But now, he wouldn't let go. As we walked back to the office, Leon finally broke the silence. Nico, I had a dream about you last night. My heart skipped a beat, a bad feeling creeping in. I turned to face him, seeing the determination on his face. Whatever he was about to say, he had been mulling it over for a while. What did you dream about? I asked cautiously. Leon's face flushed a deep red, not just his face but his neck and even the small patch of chest visible beneath his shirt. He hesitated, then stammered, I dreamed that. It didn't seem like he was about to share anything particularly wholesome. I don't know why, but I keep wanting to be closer to you. Last night I even had that kind of dream, so I'm starting to think, maybe, just maybe, I'm not so straight after all. My face remained calm, but internally, I was in turmoil. My whole body began trembling uncontrollably. Was he starting to remember? Was there a chance for us? I looked up and met his cautious gaze. His eyes were just like his mother's. In that moment, the storm within me quieted. I remembered the way his mother had looked at me with the same hesitant eyes, pleading for me to let her son return to a normal life. So, Nico Widmer, he hesitated. Could you help me confirm something? Confirm what? Leon paused before speaking again, his voice low. I want to hug you, like we did that time in the break room. I took a deep breath and stepped back. Don't joke about things like that. It's disrespectful to both yourself and me. The company acted fast after I handed in my resignation. The next day, they brought in an intern. No one knew about my leaving yet. They just assumed I was overloaded with work and needed someone to share the burden. The intern was young, still in school, with a face so full of innocence and naivety it was almost endearing. He was all talk and no skill, and by the end of the day, I had spent most of my time fixing his mistakes. Time was tight, and the tasks piled up. I barely had time to breathe, let alone teach him the ropes. I wished I could just tie him to my waist and drag him to the restroom with me to explain the business. Just as I picked up my cup to take a break, the intern leaned in close, whispering, Nico, can I ask you something? Am I annoying? I was stunned for a moment, thinking maybe I'd been too harsh on him. I was about to soften the blow, and at the same time express my dissatisfaction with the company's choice in hiring, when he continued looking aggrieved. That guy across from us keeps glaring at me like I did something wrong. The guy across from us. Leon Fisher. He wasn't at his desk at the moment, and by now, it was lunchtime. In fact, only the intern and I were still at our desks. I silently thanked the intern for sparing me from the mental gymnastics I usually had to go through to decline Leon's lunch invitations. But oddly enough, Leon hadn't asked me today. Maybe what I said yesterday had finally gotten through to him. Maybe he'd given up. Don't worry about him. Are you hungry? We should go. Before I could finish, a large takeout container landed on my desk. I saw how busy you both were, so I grabbed something to go, Leon said. His voice so familiar that I didn't need to turn around to know it was him. The intern's face lit up. Whoa, grilled meat. My favorite. Leon chuckled. The new place downstairs is offering 20% off for new customers. Go ahead, the line's a bit long. He then looked at me with a soft smile. I didn't realize you wanted this place yesterday. The flavor might be strong, so I'll leave it in the break room for you to eat later. The intern groaned dramatically as he watched Leon walk away. Nico. Is he trying to chase you? I choked on my tea. Bending over, I coughed until I thought my lungs might come out. The intern hurriedly loosened the top button of my shirt, patting my back until I regained my breath. But when I looked up to thank him, he had already backed away, wide-eyed, as if he'd just witnessed something scandalous. From beginning to end, the one holding me was Leon Fisher. I'll head downstairs, the intern mumbled, his eyes darting around before bolting out of sight. Take your time with your food. Leon's hand was still resting on my shoulder. I slipped out from under it, but he wasn't done yet. His fingers quickly wrapped around my wrist, holding me in place. Nico, I don't think I need any more confirmation. I really do feel something for you. Leon Fisher, I said, my voice low and hoarse from coughing. This is workplace harassment. He ignored me, stepping closer until my hand was pressed against his chest. His heartbeat was strong and steady beneath the fabric of his shirt, sending shivers through my body. This body. It has its own thoughts. It just wants to hold you. I latched onto his words. So, it's not your intention, right? Then control your body and stop acting like an animal. Leon quickly denied it. No, that's not what I meant. I understand now. It is my intention. I want to hold you, kiss you. I want. Oh no. I forgot my badge. The intern burst back in, grabbing his badge off the desk without looking at either of us. Didn't see anything, didn't hear anything. He rushed out again, his laughter echoing down the hallway. Silence settled between us, thick and heavy. After what felt like an eternity, Leon spoke again, his voice strained. Nico Widmer. You're single now. Can't you give me a chance to pursue you? What should I do? My head ached. My heart felt exhausted. On day 28 of the countdown, Leon Fisher had sent me hundreds of messages. I didn't reply to any of them. On day 27, he bought tickets to a show and invited me. I turned him down. On day 24, he accidentally exposed his browser history during a meeting while projecting his screen. What does it mean to dream about sleeping with a man? How to pursue a gay man. 5 tricks to make him fall for you. Top types of men in demand. Most popular gay films. I quickly unplugged the cable for him before anyone else noticed. On day 15, it rained heavily after work, and I hadn't brought an umbrella. I wasn't driving because of the restrictions. Leon Fisher elbowed the intern aside to stand next to me, pulling out the tiniest umbrella I'd ever seen. I remembered that he had a much larger umbrella stashed in the office. Certainly not this pitiful thing. It's pouring. Want to squeeze under with me? He asked, smiling. I pretended not to hear him and darted into the rain. I didn't expect him to follow me, but when I reached the apartment entrance, I turned and saw him right behind me, just as soaked as I was. Is your umbrella just for show? I asked, staring at him incredulously. I was afraid you'd disappear if I used it. Leon Fisher. This is ridiculous. Go home. I forced myself not to look at the puppy dog eyes he was giving me and stormed inside. Nico Widmer. His voice called after me. I'm cold. And I feel a little dizzy. I wanted to roll my eyes. Had his browser history taught him how to play the victim? But then I caught a glimpse of his pale face, and my heart skipped a beat. I'd forgotten. He was still recovering from his injury. Without another word, I dragged him inside. Take a hot shower and go home. Leon glanced at my own soaked clothes. You first. I'm not playing games. Leon. If you waste another second, you're going out. He immediately disappeared into the bathroom. I grabbed some of his old clothes, a hoodie and sweatpants, from the closet and left them at the door. He was quick, clearly aware that I was waiting outside, dripping wet. When he emerged, his face was flushed, and he looked much better. He beamed at the sight of the clothes I'd left for him, slipping them on with a satisfied grin. Nico, your clothes are so comfortable. They're not mine, I said, watching as his expression changed. Realization dawned, and his face darkened. Why are your ex's things still here? Can't you let go? He snapped, ripping off the hoodie in frustration and tossing it aside. His taste was terrible anyway. This color scheme is so tacky. I averted my eyes, refusing to look at the muscles flexing beneath his skin. He was thinner now, no doubt from his time in the hospital. Do what you want, I muttered, turning the thermostat up 2 degrees despite my words. Just close the door when you leave. Before he could respond, I shut the bathroom door behind me. Steam filled the air, and for a moment, a wave of sadness washed over me. This felt like any other night, an ordinary evening. Sometimes, I'd rush Leon to shower early so we could curl up in bed together and watch a carefully chosen movie. But we never got through the entire film. Leon's solid muscles, his wandering hands, and his fiery kisses were just as unreachable now as those simple ordinary nights. When I came out, Leon was still there, sitting on the couch like he had no intention of leaving. Why are you still here? I asked, though I wasn't surprised. I'll go when the rain lets up. The soft yellow light in the living room bathed his skin in a warm glow. I paused, sighing in defeat. I'll get you one of my shirts, but it might be a little tight on you. Leon jumped up immediately, following me into the bedroom. Even without looking, I could feel his eyes sweeping over every inch of the room as I searched through my clothes. When I stood up to hand him an oversized sweater, I caught him staring intently at the bedside table. That's when I remembered. The half-used box I'd left there, forgotten. I casually moved to block his view. Put this on and go home. Return it to me at the office tomorrow. He took the sweater, his expression unreadable. Our fingers brushed, and a sudden jolt of static electricity snapped between us. I jerked my hand back instinctively, but Leon grabbed it, pulling me close enough that I could feel his breath on my eyelashes. Nico, look at me. Don't pull this now, I muttered, trying to twist my wrist free, but his grip only tightened. I can tell. You still have feelings for him. But I can be better. I can learn to do everything he did. His voice was a low whisper, each word dripping with sincerity. The fastest way to forget an old relationship is to start a new one. Try with me, Nico. Day and night, I can't stop thinking about you. I'm going crazy here. Please just look at me. I tried to stay calm, tried to act indifferent. But my body betrayed me. When Leon gently cupped my face, I thought I should push him away. When he leaned closer, I thought I should speak up and stop him. When he kissed me, his movements awkward and unsure, I thought I should run. But I didn't do any of that. Every bit of resistance drained from me as my legs weakened, and I found myself holding onto his shoulders for support. He must have taken my response as a signal because Leon tightened his arms around my waist and deepened the kiss. No, this wasn't right. I had promised his mother that I wouldn't meddle in his life anymore. He was supposed to go back to being a straight man, living a normal life, getting married, settling down. Just as Leon started guiding me toward the bed, his phone rang. It was as if that sound snapped me out of a trance, and I pushed him away. I recognized the desire flickering in his eyes, the kind I'd seen so many times before. He was breathing heavily, wanting to ignore the call. Your phone, I said, my voice steady but firm. Answer it. After a moment, Leon reluctantly picked up, the frustration evident in his face. From the speaker came a familiar female voice, asking why he had skipped their dinner. The heat in my body evaporated in an instant. Mom, I already told you, I don't like her. Why do you keep trying to set us up? No, I'm not coming back. Yes, you and Dad go ahead without me. I'm at a colleague's place. Can you just leave it alone? You know him, it's Nico Widmer, the one you met last time. My blood ran cold. Leon frowned at me, looking slightly confused, then handed me the phone. My mom wants to talk to you. In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to disappear. What had I just done? I had been kissing her son, and if it weren't for that phone call, things might have gone even further. Just a month ago, I had promised her I'd step out of Leon's life. Nico Widmer? Her voice came through the phone, but she said nothing more. The silence was deafening, oppressive. And in that silence, I knew exactly what she was thinking. It was a wordless disapproval that filled me with shame. So I gave her the only answer I could. I understand, Auntie. I'll send him home. The line went dead. I'm not going back, Leon protested, moving closer, but I sidestepped his embrace. He looked hurt, his expression crestfallen. You didn't push me away earlier. You even kissed me back. Doesn't that mean you feel something for me? I shook my head, pressing the phone back into his hand. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about him. I forgot to push you away. Leon's face darkened immediately. The next day, Leon didn't come to work. Word spread that he was sick, but I didn't reach out. It wasn't my business anymore. With less than 2 weeks left before I left this city, it was probably better for both of us not to see each other. But his illness dragged on for a week, and even the higher-ups started to worry. Do you think Leon has some kind of lingering issues from the accident? One colleague asked. I heard it started as a cold, but now he's got a persistent fever, another chimed in. Maybe the fever will burn his memory back, someone joked. My hand slipped on the mouse. The intern sitting beside me noticed. Nico, are you okay? I'm fine, I muttered. Where were we? He pointed to the screen but leaned closer, whispering. You didn't accept his advances, did you? No. He sighed. Yeah, it must be annoying when someone you don't like keeps chasing you. Annoying? I thought about it. No, it wasn't annoyance I felt. It was something far more bitter, tinged with regret. When I had chased Leon, he had been patient, even kind. Compared to him, I was selfish, manipulating his feelings for my own gain, bending him to my will. It was his love that had made me realize I couldn't be that way anymore. Loving someone meant learning when to let go. When my colleagues started talking about visiting Leon, I stayed silent, not planning to join them. Instead, I went home early. I needed to start packing. The clock was ticking and soon I'd be gone for good. As I packed, my hands paused on the hoodie Leon had taken off, calling it tasteless. Eventually, I couldn't help myself. I pulled out my phone and messaged the group that had gone to visit him. How is Leon Fisher doing? The response was almost instant. He's not doing well. A cold wave of panic crashed over me. My hands started to shake. What do you mean? Is he okay? Is it serious? You'll see for yourself if you visit. I paced around the living room, trying to calm my racing heart. I sent Leon 2 messages. No reply. I tried calling. No answer. Something was wrong. Desperate, I called his mother. Her voice was calm. Almost too calm. He's fine, Nico. You don't need to worry. I paused, wanting to ask more, but she hung up before I could. Why were her words so different from what I'd heard? Why wasn't Leon answering? Anxiety gnawed at me, and I realized I couldn't wait any longer. I grabbed my coat and ran out the door. I arrived at the Fisher household just as his mother was leaving. Her expression was complicated when she saw me. I thought I told you. I'm sorry, Auntie, I interrupted, bowing my head. I just couldn't sit still. I had to check on him. I expected her to scold me, but instead she sighed. After a long pause, she handed me the key. He's in his room. I rushed upstairs, a knot of dread tightening in my chest. Something felt off, but I couldn't stop myself from charging ahead. I pushed open the door to Leon's room, heart pounding. The room was dimly lit, and he was lying on his side, his back to me. Relief flooded me when I saw him move slightly. I walked around to the other side of the bed, and when he turned to face me, Leon smiled, giving me a playful wink. I knew immediately what had happened. I wasn't angry though. Instead, all I felt was overwhelming relief. He was fine. He wasn't sick. When I moved to leave, Leon tossed the covers aside and tackled me onto the bed, holding me down. I was too emotionally drained to fight him off. You tricked me. Yeah. I heard you were quitting. I figured this was my last chance, so I asked everyone to say that if you asked. No wonder they'd all responded so quickly. I had been too worried to notice. Nico, you like me. Why are you pushing me away? I made a bet with my mom, Leon interrupted. If you came today, she promised to stop interfering in my relationships. He tightened his grip around me, his voice softening. Thank God you came. I froze, and suddenly everything made sense. His mother's conflicted expression when she saw me, her resigned look. She had known. Before I could fully process it, I felt something cool and metallic slip onto my finger. I glanced down in disbelief. It was a ring. Fits perfectly, doesn't it? Leon whispered. The jeweler called me a while back to ask why I hadn't picked it up yet. I think that day when I had the accident, I was on my way to get this ring. The ring felt impossibly heavy on my hand, even though it was small and light. When I saw the ring, I knew it had to be for you. The engraving on the card said, L&F. I must have already won you over. I shook my head, still in shock. F could stand for Fisher. Leon blinked, then squeezed my hand tighter. Nico Widmer, don't be ridiculous. It's only ever been you. He gazed into my eyes, voice growing softer. You're mad at me for forgetting you, aren't you? I hate myself for it too. How could I ever forget you? His hand gently caressed my cheek, and only then did I realize tears were streaming down my face. He kissed them away, his lips soft and reverent. Nico, let's start over. Leon never regained his memories, but after we got back together, he had plenty of questions. One evening, while we were lying in bed, he asked, So, who usually tops between us? I blinked, keeping my face straight as I lied effortlessly. Me. He hesitated, then, with the expression of a man marching to his doom, lay back on the bed. Okay, let's get this over with. But just before we could start, he flipped the script, wrapping his arms around me and whining. Actually, can you go easy on me? I've only ever learned how to top. Let me practice first, then we can switch, okay? Later, he cuddled up to me, a satisfied grin on his face. So, who's better, me or your ex? I hadn't told him there had never been an ex. But honestly, there was no need to. It didn't change anything. I changed jobs, and for the first time, we didn't have to hide our relationship at work. We drove to the office together every morning, came home together every evening, and spent our nights curled up on the couch, watching half a movie before getting distracted by each other. It was like starting over, but even better this time around. The end. Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.